Donald Trump has said that Xi Jinping is going to give him a big, fat hug when they see each other. Feels a bit unlikely, doesn't it? But this is the latest in a barrage of comments from the US president about China and its role in the Iran conflict. So how much of what he said is true? Is China actually helping the Iranians? In essence, how involved and how powerful is it? Let's pick apart Donald Trump's latest post and look at it from the Chinese perspective. He said, "China is very happy I'm permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz." He claimed they have agreed not to send weapons to Iran, and he added, "We're working together smartly and very well." There's a lot to unpack there, so let's start with the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it's true that China has a big interest in that strait reopening. It is a major importer of Middle Eastern energy. It's the #1 buyer of Iranian oil, over 80% of what Iran ships. And that has given it a huge degree of protection. While so many countries in Asia have been reeling from this fuel shortage, Iran has ensured that tankers have made it to China. Of course, it's a different story now that it's the Americans blocking the strait. But remember, China has buffers that so much of the rest of the world doesn't enjoy. It has massive oil reserves and it has diversified sources. And all of this means that it can afford to push for a reopening that suits its position and its agenda. The notion that China should be grateful to Trump is considered pretty laughable here. So secondly, is it true, as Trump claims, that China is not selling arms to Iran? Well, Trump said this week that he wrote to Xi Jinping about it and that Xi replied saying that China was not. The reality is that in recent years, China's been walking a real tightrope, not necessarily selling arms directly, but giving it plenty of indirect assistance and certainly selling it so-called dual-use items. In fact, it's been reported just recently that it was a Chinese spy satellite that gave Iran the capability to target US capabilities across the Middle East. And actually, while we're talking about supplying Iran, there's lots of evidence that China has also sold it sophisticated surveillance and censorship technologies that have allowed Iran to better control its own population. Even if it hasn't sold arms directly, there are myriad ways China has helped Iran resist recent US attacks. And that brings us to Trump's third point. Indeed, are they working well together? Well, there's plenty of evidence that China is playing a meaningful role in trying to push for peace negotiations. Trump says he believes it was China that encouraged Iran to agree to the recent ceasefire deal, and state media here have also hinted that that's likely. But it's really important to ask why China has been able to influence Iran. And it's really to do with everything we've just discussed, from the oil purchases to the military parts and the surveillance technology. It all amounts to a situation whereby Iran is hugely indebted to China, and that gives China massive sway and influence. It says it wants peace, but it probably doesn't want a peace, and perhaps wouldn't even allow a peace that amounts to what looks like a US victory. In fact, regime change in Iran wouldn't be good for China. It would lose a crucial ally in the region, a crucial supplier of its energy, and a crucial market for its goods. And China will need all of those things if it ever wants to make its own military advances on the self-governing island of Taiwan. In the end, China might have shown that it's been unwilling to protect Iran militarily, but really it's been working for years to create the conditions that have prevented America from easily prevailing. For China, the equation is so much about its ascendancy within a shifting global order. For all of Trump's jokes about hugs, this crisis leaves him weakened, and that is a position the Chinese will happily exploit.